And by the way, the worst example of all of this turns out to be the self. Are you a persistent self? Are you the same person you were yesterday? How do you know? Because you remember that you were the same person you were yesterday. You feel the same internal organs. Yes, my spleen is over here, and all those different things. That you wake up and check. Lung, good. You go through the list. Heart, still there. I don't know if you have a checklist. Kind of like in the military, when you come out and you turn on the vehicle, oil, battery, antenna, boing, how you do, and all that stuff. By the way, never take one of those heavy metal bars and lean it against the vehicle while you have men around the vehicle, because the dang thing will slip off and clunk them in the head. Don't ask me how I know that, but that happened. Okay, so the background for how we know something is the a priori, and it's the analytic a priori. If you remember with Aristotle, we had the square of opposition, right? So notice it's very similar. Now I'm looking at analytic. Analytic means all or none. It's my definition of a thing. All horses are animals, right? This particular horse, and I'm talking synthetic information, a particular situation, right? So the difference in this case between analytic, you can analyze the whole set of things, because all of them are like that, but the synthetic information is what I've just figured out about that particular one right now, right? So some horses are mares, just when a mare, yes, you can check, right? That kind of thing. But now what we've got are the a priori. So before I'm driving along the field and seeing a horse, I already know what horses look like. So I know all this stuff prior to having this particular experience. They're horses. How do I know that? There's not a little sign on each one of them. Oh, horse, a horse, a horse. Well, in a way it is, because the sign is in my head. Because I know, aha, those are horses. Because I knew that before I had the experience. Right? How did I know that they were horses? Well, when I was a little kid, playing in the barn, what's this? And then the horse goes, whammo, you shouldn't pull the horse's tail. The horse doesn't like that, right? And of course your dad comes over and picks you up and goes, don't pull the horse's tail, whatever, right? And it's a horse. Oh, I see. So at a particular moment in your history, right? If we have a tabula rasa, an empty slate, right? An experience writes on it, right? At some point I learned that's a horse. And now I know what a horse is, so that goes from a synthetic a posteriori experience. Aha! It's after having the experience that I learned all of these are horses, right? So I get my a priori analytic information from my synthetic a posteriori experience, right? So I've had the experience, now I know for next time, and all times, those are horses, right? And I can also be sure that if, it's a drawing of a horse, if you remember I drew a horse, and you think, wait a minute, that's not really a horse, that's a drawing of a horse, a laughable drawing of a horse, right? And if it has a single horn, it's not really a horse, it's a unicorn. If it has wings and looks like a skeleton, we know it's not a horse, it's a Thestral, which every spring the thestrals return to my yard and I take pictures of them and you just see my yard because of course you can't see them. That's just a personal Facebook. You know, you just post funny things on Facebook and you find out who knows about thestrals or not, you know, because, you know, if I say the thestrals are back and it's just a picture of my yard, the people that go, ha ha, you know, they're Harry Potter fans or they hate Harry Potter, but they know, you know. Okay, so a priori is prior to, this is Latin for prior to. A posteriori is after, right? Analytic is definitional, all or none. And synthetic, some or some are not. Now, what Kant says is Hume is saying that there is no synthetic a priori. So the first time I learned something, I can't possibly have already known what to expect. Right? I can have analytic a priori. All horses are animals. I learned that. So yes, I can have analytic a priori information. I learned that all horses are animals and what they look like from having had a synthetic experience of it. But the problem is there's no way I could have synthetic a priori information. And this is what metaphysics requires. So there's no possible way we can have metaphysics. You can't know things prior to having a synthetic experience that teaches you whatever that is to begin with, right? Now, this means, as far as Kant is concerned, that there's no way we can do metaphysics. And since his whole career was based on metaphysics, as a teacher in his middle age, remember he was a follower of Christian Wolff, rationalist, metaphysician, follower of Leibniz. So you've got this chain of reasoning, that Kant is going to be familiar with. And since metaphysics can't be possible, yes?
Is metaphysics considered a pseudoscience?
In this case, if you go to the bookstore and you look up metaphysics, what you'll see is palm reading and astrology and weird things like that. No, that's in philosophy. Metaphysics is one of the 5 kinds of things that philosophers deal with, and what it means is the ground of everything. So when we're talking, remember it came from physics was what Aristotle called his one book, where he talked about physis, which is nature, right? And everyone, when they gathered, the books that followed that, what should we call these? And someone thought up, well, these are the books that follow physics, which is Metaphysica. So all of those books got called metaphysics. And as a result, all of those sciences are associated with metaphysics. So the word doesn't actually describe anything, except that it's that which follows the physics. But we use meta not just for like the company that changed its name from Facebook, right? Or Google, rather. Which one? No, Google became ABC or something. No, I'm confused about all the...
Did you know Mark Zuckerberg just had a baby?
No kidding. I didn't know he could even become pregnant.
yeah. It was a girl.
Well, I mean, if Arnold, could become pregnant, Mark Zuckerberg, boy, it's a girl. Ugh. Talk about ugly baby.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, no, actually, I bet you're saying that his lovely wife had the baby.
Oh, Oh, yeah, it was.
Ah, okay, well, that's okay then.
Who married
Because I can imagine that the baby, oh, his wife is the boss. Did you ever see her?
As she should be.
She's all business and smart. Way smarter than he is. He's a nerd, you know, and looks it.
He kind of looks like a lizard.
Wizard.
Yeah.
That could be.
I
Iguana.
like lizards. Yeah.
Okay, well, so metaphysics is not the weird things that you see in the bookstore. It's instead our attempt to understand the ground of being. Why is it that being exists? You know, and so we talk about the science of the Big Bang or Big Whoop, whatever you want to call it, or the little poof, or any of those things that you want to think about. Is the Big Bang, is it cyclical in nature, et cetera. Time, the nature of time, all those issues. So what Einstein was doing was metaphysics. So it's a serious thing as opposed to that. And so Kant wants to explain how metaphysics can still be done, despite Hume's argument, which Kant accepts. Hume is right. If epistemology, or theory of knowledge, is based on sense perception, what I'm perceiving at the moment, that's what I know. And I can't go any further than that because of the kind of dilemma that Hume presents us with. Then, where do we get the grounds for thinking that there's something that gives us a basis for our knowledge? Where can knowledge come from? And this is where Kant gives us a transcendental method. This is the limit, says Hume, and we accept that. But in order to explain metaphysics, we have to transcend this limit. So we're going to transcend it by figuring out what is necessary in order for us to have any experience at all. An experience is referred to as phenomena. And that's from the Greek. A phane is a lantern. So this is a great metaphor for this. When you're out walking around at night, I'm carrying a lantern, with like Hagrid carries, First years, you know how he does, right? But today we would carry a lantern around like this. Because you're carrying your cell phone with a flashlight on, right? But if you think of it, a phane is a lantern, and as you walk around in the dark, you can see what your lantern lights up for you. I can't see what's over here in the dark. I can only see what my senses enable me to see in this universe, right? So that's phenomena, right? And the study of phenomena is phenomenology. In case you're interested, you've probably heard of it, right? How many folks have heard of phenomenology? None.
Heard that it's phenomenal.
It's a real word. I'm not making this stuff up. We can go. See, it even comes up. You could even have phenomenological, the science of phenomena, the nature of being, an approach that concentrates on the study of consciousness and the objects of direct experience. That's good. That's a good definition. I like that. The most direct experience of phenomenology that I had was in my philosophy of religion course, where the one textbook that we had was the phenomenology of religion, Religion in Essence and Manifestation by Vanderloo. Should I show you that? you spell religion? Did I misspell it? Oh, I misspelled his name. But the neat thing about this book is it's almost like an encyclopedia. And as you go through it, it's got things like water, blood, life, death. All these religious concepts. And as you go through, it's in alphabetical order, and so you say you hit blood, and blood, talks about why blood is sacred in Hindu religion, and Islamic religion, and Christian religion, and Jewish, in other words, it just goes through all the cultures that van der Loo could discover, writes them all down, and a phenomenologist goes out without any preconceptions and just records what